Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're joining us from. My name is Dalia, and I work as a community manager here at Kong. I'm very happy to have all of you join our November user call. The topic for today is Painless Kong Gateway upgrades on Kubernetes with the Kong Gateway operator. We have Michael with us today. I will let him introduce himself. Let's take all of the questions at the end. You will see that there's a Q&A function on the bottom. Please use it to insert all of your questions. This webinar is recorded, so you will have access to the recording on our YouTube channel. Afterwards, if you want to rewatch it, I will include the link here in the chat. So with that, please, Michael, take it away.
Thank you, Dalia. Good morning, afternoon, and evening all. As Dalia said, I'm Michael. I'm a Senior Director of Product Management here at Kong, and I look after our Kubernetes Ingress Controller and the Kong Gateway Operator. Now, the Kong Gateway Operator was announced at API Summit 2022 and became generally available at API Summit 2023, which was about 5 weeks ago. And the Kong Gateway Operator is really what makes painless Kong Gateway upgrades on Kubernetes possible. So today I'm going to talk about, first of all, what is an operator? Like, you can come into this call understanding nothing about operators. Then we'll take a quick look at what the Kong Gateway Operator is. We've got 2 live demos, one around the Gateway API, which is a brand new way to configure routing on Kubernetes. And then a second demo that uses our Connect platform and shows how to do blue-green upgrades for your data planes. And then finally, we'll take a quick look at the Kong Gateway Operator roadmap, and that's your opportunity to provide any feedback that you've got or make any requests. So before we dive into the demos, I really want to spend a minute talking about what an operator is, because I really didn't know when I started this project. Like, I thought, an operator, a controller, like, what's the difference? A Kubernetes operator is a method of packaging, deploying, and managing a Kubernetes application. Kubernetes applications both run on Kubernetes and are managed using the Kubernetes API and tools such as kubectl. An operator extends the Kubernetes API so that it's aware of your application's specific configuration, and it can also manage instances of applications on your behalf. An operator provides you with the best of both worlds. You can keep the tooling and the workflows that you already know from Kubernetes, whilst managing your domain or application-specific items for your business. For us, it means that you can deploy and manage running Kong Gateway instances using kubectl. Now, I mentioned one of the things that confused me when I first learned about operators is that I thought they already existed. How is this any different to a controller? Based on what I've learned so far, there is a very clear line. The Kong Ingress controller, for example, runs on Kubernetes and it configures Kong Gateway in response to created resources. In Kubernetes, controllers implement control loops that repeatedly compare the desired state of the cluster based on resources on the API server with its actual state. And if the actual state doesn't match the desired state, it takes action to fix the problem. For Kong, that's using the admin API to send the updated configuration. For a controller, all of that state is declarative. It takes the desired state and the actual state and just reconciles the difference. Now, an operator is a little bit more intelligent. It monitors the state of your deployments and it can perform actions automatically. They can perform preventative maintenance, such as renewing certificates 30 days before they expire. They can take simple commands such as upgrade this image and convert it into a complex set of steps to execute. Controllers are for reconciling state, whereas operators are for automating processes. Now that we've covered what an operator is, we can start talking about the Kong Gateway Operator, or KGO, as I'm going to call it from now on. KGO is an operator for managing Kong gateway instances. Makes sense, right? Originally announced at API Summit 2022, KGO received its first stable release in September at API Summit 2023. We're still early on our journey with the Kong gateway operator, but it's got plenty of features that are still useful today. I'll cover more of the roadmap in a little while, but I wanted to show you 2 live demos. The first is how you can deploy Kong as a load balancer for your Kubernetes cluster without using a single Kong-specific API. We're only going to use Gateway API resources. And there is a video here. This is just in case things don't work, because I am actually going to do it live. So the first thing I need to do is install the Gateway API CRDs into my Kubernetes cluster. And then once that is done, I need to install the Kong gateway operator itself. We provide CRDs and a Kubernetes manifest for starting the operator itself. And we can check if the operator is ready with kube control, get deployments, and look at that. It is up and running and ready to go. The Gateway API has 2 main components, Gateway class and Gateway. Gateway class kind of handles all the configuration, and a gateway is a representation of an actual gateway instance and any listeners and any ports and things like that. So I have some pre-built manifests. Let's start with the first one. So this is a gateway class, and we're saying that this gateway class is managed by the Kong. I also have this gateway configuration at the top. This is a Kong CRD. You don't have to have this. This is something I like to add so that I can specify the pod template spec. So I can specify exactly which image of Kong to run and exactly which version of the ingress controller. So if I create those, we can take a look at the second step, which is to create a gateway instance. Now, this is what actually triggers things being created. So if I run kube control get pods, there's nothing there. But as soon as I apply this manifest, the gateway operator will say, oh, hey, there's a gateway resource. I need to do something with that. And we can see that it's actually spinning up 2 pods. One for the data plane, which is the proxy pod. That's a Kong gateway that will be running. And that is what we use to proxy requests. And then we have control plane, which is the Kong ingress controller, which will watch for ingress or gateway API resources and configure Kong gateway for us. They're both running, which means it's time to take a look at point number 3, which is HTTP route. This is the layer 7 replacement for ingress. And we can see we've got a rule that says, if the path starts with echo, send it off to the echo service. Now, we don't have an echo service yet, so let me just deploy that quickly. And this is just a service, and the deployment is fairly standard stuff. It's just a demo service. And I will also apply the HTTP route. And now, if I echo my load balancer /echo, we can see that we have a running Kong gateway instance proxying to the echo service in my cluster. We didn't use a single Kong resource there. Like, all of that was pure gateway API, gateway class, gateway, and HTTP route, and we're proxying traffic. This is all thanks to the power of the Kong gateway operator. You can, of course, extend this with Kong gateway specific items like rate limiting and authentication, but you don't have to. All you need to do is learn gateway API and Kong can work for you. You can get all the power of its super fast proxying and routing capabilities. So I'm going to clear out my Kubernetes cluster because it is time for demo number. Oh, you wanted to play it. There we are. Demo number 2, which is blue-green deployments using congateway operator with Connect. So if I head back to my terminal, we can see there's nothing in this cluster now. It's all been reset. And I'm going to start again by installing the congateway operator. Now, this time we're going to be using Connect as our data plane. We're not going to use the Kong ingress controller. So let me change into my Connect directory and head to Connect. I'm going to create a new control plane. I'm going to call it KGO. And I'm going to follow the Kubernetes instructions. I'm not going to follow all of these because they actually use Helm. But we need some of the authentication credentials. So let's... Oh, I have some old ones here. Let me remove those. There we are. Create the certificate. And create the key. And this is all just so I can connect my data planes to Connect. So I'm not going to manage my routing rules with CIDs anymore. I'm going to use the Connect UI. So I've got my certificates. I need to create a certificate, secret, sorry, for the certificate. And then the next thing is to configure our cluster control plane environment variables. So this is a values.yaml for Helm, but I'm going to do it instead using a Kong gateway operator data plane. So this is a data plane resource. This is a part of the Kong gateway operator, as you can see by the API version. And the data plane has a pod template spec to define what the deployed pods look like. This is one that I built earlier. So here we can see this Kong plus control plane, and I just need to update it to use this ID. And let me go through and save it. And I can apply that. And whilst that data plane is running, we can take a closer look. So it's the data plane resource. We've told it how to attach the proxy pod to Connect. We've told it that Connect mode is on. And we've told it to mount the cluster certificate, which is how the gateway can do authentication to Connect. We can see that data plane is running. And if I click done here, it says, I just created a new data plane mode. Why don't I add a service? And that seems like a great idea. So because this is running in Kubernetes, I'm actually going to address a service within my Kubernetes cluster, which runs at echo.default.service.cluster.local on port 1027. This is an alternative to using CODs to configure your routes. You can use the UI. You can use a tool like Deck, which is our declarative config tool, or you can use the admin API directly. Once I've created the service, I'm also going to create a route that just proxies anything that starts with /echo to the echo service. And once again, I need to deploy that to my cluster. So now I should be able to call this. And once again, traffic is making it to my internal echo service. What I like about this is I can go back to connect and I can see that traffic immediately in analytics. Now that's all just set up. Like we have data planes managed by the gateway operator attached to connect. We can see I have a data plane node, it's version 3.4. Now we get to the blue-green deployment stage because Con Gateway 3.5 is coming out soon and I just want to try it out. I don't want to affect my production traffic yet, but I do want to see how it works. So what I can do is I can edit my data plane and I can add a rollout strategy. So edit a data plane. And I do this by adding a deployment rollout strategy. I'm going to use blue-green deployment. And we want to just pause before things are promoted because we want to manually approve that things are good before the new pods get pushed into production usage. I'm also going to change the image to be Con Gateway Dev 3.5. This is the preview build for Con Gateway 3.5. I'm going to save that data plane. We can see that the operator's detected that the pod template spec has changed and it is starting to deploy a new Con Gateway node. That's ready and running. If I go back here and refresh, we can see now that there is a version 3.5 data plane attached as well. Now, something that's important to check is /echo. I'm also missing -i. Okay. So I'm constantly hitting that public load balancer, and we can see that it's always version 3.4.1.1. Like we're not going round robin with 3.5 or anything like that. Like that pod is live, but it's not being used by production traffic. What we can do is we can get that data plane and take a look at its status rollout field. And we can see that its rollout status is false because it's currently awaiting promotion. It also gives us a private IP address, and you could do queue control, port forward, or anything like that. My test setup, I can actually access these IPs. So if I just did this, I can see that I'm going via Kong 3.5. And yeah, this all seems good to me. So what I want to do is say Kong. Okay, I've tested things. It's all working. I want to promote that new 3.5 data plane to production. And I mentioned that operators can take a simple command and transform it into a set of complex steps. That's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to annotate our data plane with the promote when ready equals true annotation to say, hey, when you're ready, just get rid of the old pod, put the new one on the public load balancer and have it handle traffic. So I did that annotation and suddenly there is only one pod there. And if I go back to this, call -i, I'm just going to type it out, -i -s kubernetes.o.local/echo. Look at that. Our public load balancer is now handling with Con Gateway 3.5. That's it. That's the end. Or at least the end for blue-green deployments. Actually, before we get onto the roadmap, there is just one thing that I love about this that I forgot to say, and it's that Connect makes upgrades super easy. If you're running an on-prem control plane, you need to say, oh, what version is my control plane? What version is my data plane? Like the combination of Connect and the gateway operator is incredible because Connect's control plane is version aware. It will only send the configuration that the data plane can handle. So that means you can deploy new data planes whenever you want. And using KGO's blue-green deployment strategy, you can test everything is working as expected before you switch over all your traffic. Now, roadmap. As I mentioned, this had its first stable release in September. Blue-green deployment is the flagship feature, but we're working on new things. We're looking at certificate rotation, so automatically managing the CPDP MTLS certificate and the HTTPS certificate for your proxy. We're looking to take it one step further and add cloud integrations. So instead of the operator generating certificates or a cert manager, maybe you want to use AWS Secrets Manager or Google Secrets Manager or a HashiCorp Vault. Like having that deep cloud integration is exactly what the operator exists to do. We're looking at HPA auto-scaling, where the gateway pods will automatically scale out when resource usage increases. But we're also looking at latency auto-scaling, which is something that only Kong Gateway can provide. Because Kong Gateway can track the latency of your upstreams. So even if resource usage is low, you can say, hey, once my service starts taking more than 70 milliseconds to return, I want you to scale out those pods. Or even, hey, when my API takes more than 100 milliseconds to return, I want to scale out my database pods because I know that that's my bottleneck. So really leaning into the data that Kong Gateway has available to make good decisions as a service operator. And then there's more. Like, we're just getting started with the gateway operator. What would you like to see? Like, we would love to hear your ideas because we're all in on operators. Like, operators are the future of Kubernetes. And we know that we can't have every idea. Like, so we want to hear from you. What are your current pain points? What do you wish Kong did? What do you wish other gateways did? Like, reach out, tell us. We really do want to hear your ideas. My email address is on this slide. I will respond to every single email that I get. With that, thank you for your attention, and I will take a look at the Q&A.
Thank you, Michael. Awesome presentation. Thank you for also including your contact details. Hopefully we'll get some suggestions after that. We don't have any questions, but let's give it a few minutes. Now is the time to make suggestions, ask questions while we have Michael here. So go ahead, post in the Q&A, please. No. Yes, the presentation is recorded. It will be available in about 30 minutes on our YouTube channel, and I will send you the link right away.
Something I didn't mention is both of the demos that I did today are actually taken from our Kong documentation site. So if you go to docs.konghq.com and click on Kong Gateway Operator, then Getting Started, there's two categories, one for Kong Ingress Controller and one for Connect, and you'll be able to work through both of these examples yourself.
Give it a couple minutes. Maybe someone will ask a question.
I must just have done such a good job explaining everything.
Yeah, exactly. Everything's crystal clear.
Actually, let me put my email back up. If you do think of any questions, please do reach out. Like I said, I'll respond to every email that I get. Otherwise, thank you for your time.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Patrick.
Right. Thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you in the next user call. Have a great day, great evening. Bye-bye.